So just to review what we talked about last week with Spiritism, not Pantheism. Yeah, and then we'll take some new ground with Pantheism. There is no personal God in Pantheism. Some pantheists would believe that everything is God, or God is everything, or God is in everything and in everyone, but there's no such thing. I do not think there is a situation that you need a calculator in Bible class. I don't think that's I mean, maybe if we're going through the book of Numbers, but not.
That's good. That should be dark. That should be a dark.
So there's no personal God in pantheism. God is in everything and in everyone, or God is everything and everyone, and even all things, whether they're living or not. Man is an illusion. There's no distinction between good and evil, and God is everywhere. But there's no the God up there. There's no personal God, and we went through these already. So, how does a pantheist answer the 5 life questions? From where did I come? The universe created itself, or maybe, I don't know, the universe has always been. But there is no personal God that created the universe. It doesn't come from a transcendent creator. It's, in the beginning, there was a Big Bang, maybe. Is what they believe. And then we are emanating from random forces that comprise reality. And that we're emanations of that force or that spirit, but it's not a personal God. Why is there such a mess in the world? Well, people have abused and harmed nature and harmed one another, and so that's what causes all the bad stuff in the world. And the reason they do that, the reason people do that, is because they're unenlightened. If they became enlightened, then they would no longer do that. Yes.
So are they dualists? Is every pantheist a dualist? Like, do they believe that they are both spirit?
I think it depends on the pantheist. I mean, this is a broad, like
right.
Buddhists and Hindus.
If you think that everything is God, then you must, like, when encountering something like cells and scientific knowledge, they have to have, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm talking about something spiritual.
Yeah, let's wait till we get to what happens when I die, because I think that might just have some clarification in that. So then, is there any hope? The only hope is the only hope is we make our own future, and so if we're enlightened. As people get enlightened, then that's our hope, that everyone gets enlightened, and we have the future is ours to make and to unmake. Remember what that guy said to me. Everything that happens to us, it's subconsciously, unconsciously choose. That's the idea, that with enlightenment, then we make those choices in a way that are going to give us more hope. And then what is my purpose in life? And mostly it's just to become enlightened, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So this says to connect more deeply and harmoniously with the universe, nature, and other humans, and that's basically what enlightenment is. And that is largely done through meditation. Now, is there such a thing as Christian meditation? Absolutely. What do we meditate on? God.
There's anything honorable.
Right. What He's done for us, all of that, right? enlightenment to them is more, well, remember like Star Wars, Empty Your Mind? It's more that. It's more that than thinking about, they wouldn't be thinking about personal God because they don't have a personal God. But meditation, like clearing your mind, getting bad thoughts out of your mind, is the path to a better life. Now, I want to give you a real life, theology is the wrong word, philosophy is the wrong word. We're just going to go with a thing. I'm going to give you a thing. How this works out in an actual religion. We're going to talk about Buddhism for a little bit. And when I taught world religions at Miller North, like eons ago, I taught about this. So this is what we've talked about so far. What do we hope, and what is my purpose, right? So we're not going to do that yet. These are called. This is like the. If it, we can't call it a theology, but if it was if we could call it a theology, this is their framework. This is their main framework for Buddhism, and it's called the Four Noble Truths. And there's four of them. Wow. I know. It's mind blowing, isn't it? So the first noble truth is the truth of suffering. The truth of suffering. And if you want to write this down somewhere, you can. And the part of the truth of suffering is that we all suffer. Now, is that a true statement?
Yes.
It's absolutely a true statement. But it goes off in a way that Christians would not. So, by the way, here's the word for suffering. I didn't get the last class. Sorry, I'm just kidding. So yeah, the truth of suffering, and the truth of suffering is that we all suffer, right? We all suffer. Is that true? Yes. Now, a Buddhist would tell you that you don't suffer once you get rid of what causes your suffering. But apart from this, right, a Buddhist would say, yes, everybody suffers if they're not fully enlightened. So the truth of suffering is that we all suffer. And then the second noble truth is the truth of the cause, I think it is, the truth of the origin. So why do we suffer? Why does everyone suffer? How would a Christian answer that? The fall. And because of sin, we suffer. If the world was perfect, we wouldn't suffer. Right? And I would submit, even if we could be perfect individually, I don't believe we can, we would still suffer. Right? Jesus did. Right? The only sinless man who ever lived suffered. Of course.
I think that's what the doesn't really understand it. The world was already ruined. So it's not that people do wrong and that's why bad things happen. It's like the world was ruined when it first happened.
And so were we.
Right. And,
So were we.
and now so are we. But I mean that's how I would approach communism. You know, has the typical retort like, oh, what about like when a kid gets cancer?
Yeah. It's everything's changing. Yes, Eli.
So talking about suffering's organic, or is it inherent with the earth?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. They acknowledge suffering, and but I'm about to tell you what they think where it comes from. Okay, so So the third noble truth. Oh wait, no, I need to do this first. Sorry. What? Okay. Do I want to say this first or do I want to write that first? Say it quick. So Buddhists believe that we suffer because we. No, I'm going to do this. The truth of the cessation, which means the stopping of suffering. So they know that, well, this is what they think, that suffering comes from desire. We suffer because we desire. Okay, so if you can get rid of desire, you can get rid of suffering. Think about it.
They're technically.
I have a friend who is not able to have children, and they can have adopted, but that was a suffering in her. And so Buddhism would just tell her, well, if you just get rid of the desire to have children, you won't suffer.
About as true as saying, if I never play soccer, I'll never lose at it.
Yeah. Rude. What else do you? I want to hear from you. Yeah.
With that framework, have the desire to be enlightened, counterintuitive. Also, the desire to do good rather than kill people and murder. It's also.
I don't know if that's a desire though.
The desire to do good rather than do bad. Without that, it's
Sexual desire.
yeah.
I don't know if it's a
And
desire.
pretty much anyone,
But we didn't have that sexual desire. We'd seen these sinful people living a lot worse.
pretty much anyone would say that's a good desire, right? But not in Buddhism. That's the only way. Now, think about this for a second. If we could theoretically get rid of all desires, not have desire for anyone or anything, could we get rid of suffering?
No. Well, we have to think about desire itself is not a bad thing.
We are alive.
It's
Well,
like
it is to Buddhists though.
to Buddhists it is, but
And that's what we're talking about. I want to talk about it in this context. If we could, this is a theoretical question. If we could get rid of all of our desires, would it end our suffering?
Well, I run cross country. Cross country hurts a lot. So the only reason I run cross country is because I desire to do it. So if I didn't desire to run it, then it wouldn't hurt. I kind of agree.
Okay.
Yeah, like if I don't want, like I don't like Starbucks. Okay, so if I wanted Starbucks and couldn't get it, I'd be upset. But
Okay,
I'd suffer.
Buddhist.
But if I didn't want Starbucks, when I don't have Starbucks, I don't hurt.
Okay, yeah. I see what you're saying. So how many of you would say, theoretically at least, that's true?
Yeah.
That if we could get rid of all
I mean, it's
desires.
like what I said. I mean, they're
it's
technically right.
counterintuitive.
It is, but it's more than that. That's more than that. Here's the question. I'll let you guys answer something, and then I'll.
Suffering requires acknowledgement that you are suffering, and if you have no desires for anything, like you don't have the desire to eat, you don't have the desire to live, the desire to do anything.
Right.
And so you have no greater desire to even do anything about that. It's kind of like a state of ambivalence where you just don't care about anything, but that doesn't mean that you aren't suffering. It's that you don't acknowledge the fact that you are suffering.
Yeah.
Doesn't Judaism have the desire to become enlightened? So
That's why I said earlier.
what?
Yeah.
I'm still.
I don't think it's called a desire to be enlightened. It's like this is what you should strive for, so not a desire to goal.
Okay.
You know?
This is
Ayla.
just theoretically, if we have no desire to sustain our own lives, like eating to take care of ourselves, then we all die. So then there will be no suffering. Well, unless we go to hell, and then.
According to Buddhism. According to Buddhism. Yes.
I was gonna say something sort of similar to what Holly said, where it's like they're still suffering, even if maybe
you don't know it's there, you don't acknowledge it. So like there's like physical suffering obviously. So like say you are like you're burning in a fire, whether or not that's a very dramatic scenario. But whether or not even if you don't desire to do well, you are still physically being harmed, you are still physically suffering. So it's just because you don't like you might say, oh, I'm not suffering right now because I don't care whether or not I'm in a situation. You're still suffering.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of self-deception. Yeah. Okay, I'll do one more. I've heard from you, and I've heard from you.
I was just gonna.
Yeah.
So going off what she was saying with the whole like there is no suffering if you don't acknowledge it, like that is very much true. Like there's a difference between physical suffering, mental suffering, spiritual suffering. Like there is a difference, and if you don't register any of those things as actual suffering, then what meaning does suffering have? Like our bones or our muscles are constantly pulling on our bones, but we don't feel that pain. We're used to it. Is that suffering? Like if I slap my hand against the table, I go, but I can't feel it because my nerves suddenly don't work. Is that actually suffering?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I just was gonna say, if someone comes up to you in broad daylight and stabs you, first of all, you didn't desire that, and it's still suffering inflicted on you.
But you desire to stab.
Even if you don't acknowledge that you just got stabbed, you can still be suffering. Even if you sat there and you're like, this is fine, you'd still be suffering, even if you acknowledge it or not. That's the flaw in their thinking, is that your body can still be suffering whether you. It's not suffering is not subjective; it's not an objective truth. If you get hurt, you're gonna either feel it or your body's gonna be impacted by it. It doesn't matter if your nerves work, I guess.
Trust me, I'm 62. I understand that. So here's the thing. I'm taking this at a different sort of level. You guys are expounding on things that are deep and wonderful. But here's the question I have for you. Even if it's true, even if we could say, I'm not going to have any sort of desires for anyone or anything. Even if that's true, and even if that ends my suffering, do we want to?
No, that's not.
Not having a desire for your husband, your wife, and
Like I
not
said,
for friendship and for meaning and for
it's
not
always
desiring anything.
Desire itself is not a bad thing. God Himself desires to have a relationship with us. So we literally, if we get rid of that attribute, we're essentially saying we're getting rid of that attribute that God gave us.
And I would submit that we are abrogating or we are jettisoning part of the reason we were created.
Yeah.
Right? God wants us to desire. He wants us to desire the right things, but He wants us to desire. So, and then the last one is that. Let me get the right verbiage here. So this, by the way, this is the path to nirvana, not the indie rock band. To whatever it's kind of nirvana isn't like heaven. Nirvana isn't like heaven. It's like you poof into the universe, and you become indistinct. It's not that you have a soul. You just poof into the ultimate reality is what it's called. And so the last noble truth is the path to nirvana.
Nothingness. Awesome. So they're basically like an atheist.
Sounds like fun,
But
right?
they don't.
And the path to nirvana looks like every other religion other than Christianity. Do this and do this and do this and do this. It's called the Eightfold Path. You have to have right understanding. You have to understand the world as it really is. You have to have right intentions. So your intentions toward others need to be good. Right speech, the way we speak. Right action. Don't do bad things. Right livelihood. Don't do something for a living that's going to hurt people or flies or worms or whatever, especially not cows. And right effort. So do your best at everything you do. Right mindfulness, and that's meditation, which is a huge part of all Eastern religions. And then no, that's right. Right mindfulness is not that. Right concentration is meditation. So once again, we get down to do this and do this and do this and do this and don't do this and don't do this, and you'll reach not a personal God because they don't believe in that, but you'll reach nirvana. With heaven to a person in the Eastern religions. So again, Christianity is the only religion that begins with the truth. You can't do it, so God had to do it for us. And nobody does this either. And I'm telling you that Buddhists suffer, and they may try to get rid of, their desire, but they don't do it perfectly any more than we do what we're supposed to do. The difference, as it always is Jesus and what He's already done for us. So I'm going to play. The last thing we'll do is I'm going to play a clip. I'm kind of hoping that somebody's seen this movie. I'll turn this off before I see it.